Welcome everybody, my name is EruptionFang and this is Volume 6, Episode 9, titled Lost. So we begin with Mercury and Emerald. Emerald's a bit curious about Mercury's past, and so she questions him as to why he joined them in the first place. Simple answer is, it just felt right. He's got no real rhyme or reason to be here other than it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time, and so he did it. Emerald expresses how Cinder is like family, and the two end up getting into a bit of a scuffle. It is here where we learn of Mercury's backstory involving his father. Raised by a father who hated him and tried to ensure his son became strong, took his semblance away from him once it emerged. Mercury had to fight through all of that to be the person he is today. This gets interrupted by Tyrion, who really has nothing important to say. It just seemed like he wanted to be part of the conversation as he tells them that he loves what he does. Anyway, he and Watts are being sent to Atlas because mystery. What went down here with Emerald and Mercury was so great. At first it seems like just a Mercury thing, but honestly the scene benefits them both. Mainly Mercury though. This type of character is something you'd expect to be coming from one of the heroes, specifically Jeanne. The story of a character dealt a bad hand has no semblance, but even with this disability manages to overcome it through training and determination. But it's not coming from one of the heroes, and that's what makes this so cool. He's a purely skilled fighter. He can't use a semblance, and so when he beats an opponent, it's based purely on his training alone. And Emerald of course expanding on the Cinder being like family mentality. This whole scene to me felt like just that. This idea of family. Emerald never having had one, then Cinder came along to fill this hole that was missing in her life. Mercury, hated by his father, also never truly had a family, but unlike Emerald, doesn't admit it. I mean, Tyrion said what was supposed to be picked up, which is, all he's known was pain and violence, and now he's too scared to leave it. I hate that Tyrion said that because that's exactly what it is. That line destroys whatever subtlety the scene had going on. This is another one of those show don't tell moments, only it did both of them. It was showing us, but then it just told us. But nonetheless, that's exactly it. When watching it, you could almost sense that something was up with Mercury, not giving a straight answer, just being like, I don't know. It was almost as though he was refusing to say what Emerald just said. It's like the family he never had. But as Tyrion said, all he's known is pain and violence. And expressing these emotions are sort of showing weakness, something he's gone his entire life not being allowed to do. And so a knee-jerk reaction to being asked these questions would be to push Cinder away, push Emerald away. I think Mercury does consider them family, but has been conditioned to not be able to admit it. Even the fight between the two reminded me of Raven and Yang's encounter, in which throughout the whole thing, it never gave off this sense of danger. It didn't feel like the two characters were really fighting. I mean, Emerald never used her semblance and Mercury never used his gun legs. Going back to the idea of family, it felt like a sibling scuffle. The two got angry, they got into a fight, but at the end of the day, it meant nothing and they'll move past it immediately. I think Cinder, Mercury, and Emerald are like a family. Cinder's the wild card here because she's such a mediocre character at best, let's be honest. She's not exactly given anyone any reason to care about her, her past, her plot. She's been fairly boring and the show hasn't been doing her any favors. But this scene, even if it's not true and Mercury really doesn't consider them family, was still really great. Meanwhile, back at Argus, Team Juniper are on the search for Oscar. They take a break and Ren and Nor go to grab some coffee. While away, Jeanne sees an oh-so-familiar statue. It is at this statue where Jeanne meets Red-Haired Woman, as she's so appropriately named in the credits. The two talk about Pyrrha, exchanging words of inspiration, saying how she trained here and how she was a true huntress. Then like a ghost, she just disappears. And just like that, by staring at a statue, Team Juniper all changed their minds about going to Atlas. First and foremost, the woman. Who is she? She was given no named credit and seemed oddly mysterious for no reason. The simple answer that a lot of people jump aboard to is her mother. Clearly, the red hair, the green eyes seems like a trait of the Nikos family. She knew plenty about Pyrrha, where she grew up, how people reacted, something you'd expect a mother to know about. So there's a simple answer that explains that. Aside from why she was acting so mysterious at the end. Then of course there are those who believe this is actually Pyrrha. Not in the sense that, oh, she's been living in Argus this entire time. but rather this is like a ghost, connected through aura when she unlocked Jeanne's semblance, and this is a manifestation of herself. People like to point to how she responded to certain statements that Jeanne made, almost as though she was personally receiving them.
She should be standing here.
She is.
Pyrrha never got the chance to graduate, but she was a huntress.
Thank you.
Is it? Honestly, until the show gives us more to go on, we don't know. If this is Ghost Pyrrha, I do like the fact that her eyesight somehow got bad and she needs glasses now. But to throw my own opinion into the topic, I've never been for a resurrected Pyrrha. Yes, she was a great character and I really did like her, but the thing about bringing someone back from the dead, it's almost like an insult. It's an insult to what they did, why they did it, and the impact that it had on not only the audience, but the characters in universe. Practically, this whole scene would be wasted because it's the memory of Pyrrha that's driving these characters. It's her death that has impacted their lives so much that they're trying to become better people because of it. To bring her back negates a lot of the emotion and meaning behind what she did. So while a lot of people hold on to the hopes that Pyrrha may return one day, I hold my hopes that she stay dead. I don't know who this lady is or why she disappeared into thin air, but so long as it's not Pyrrha, I'm fine with it. In terms of Team Juniper changing their minds, it was something I was perfectly fine with, but also found myself getting slightly annoyed at because of the reasoning. They did it because of Pyrrha. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually think friends are sort of the greatest motivating factor characters can have. The part of me that shook my head, believe it or not, was because of Ozpin. You see, the red-haired woman, Jeanne, Red, Nora, they all talked about Pyrrha and how she was the definition of a huntsman. There was never a choice. She would always do what she did, and that inspired the team. The reason I shook my head is, Ozpin created the huntsman. You're still playing his game. So while it's a, we're doing this for Pyrrha, it's also a, we're still being manipulated by Ozpin's world design. Listen, there's nothing wrong with wanting huntsmen who are like Pyrrha and recognize that there is no choice involved, that you must fight even when it seems impossible. Nothing's wrong with wanting those types of people. But it's the fact that Ozpin has forever preached the idea of choice, making people believe that a choice can be made, but doing the opposite. By doing so, it forced someone like Pyrrha into a situation she wasn't prepared for with the Fall Maiden, telling her that there is a choice that can be made. And I'm certain that not every student would be willing to lay down their lives if they knew exactly what was going on. Surely there would be a great deal of huntsmen up to the challenge, but Ozpin hides it. I go back to that scene in Volume 4, and while it's Crow preaching choice, it's because of Ozpin that he says this.
So you forced it on Pyrrha.
We didn't force anything. We explained the situation and gave her a choice, and she chose.
Listen, the scene was really wonderful. I love the friendship between them pushing them to greater heights. The whole thing was sweet, heartbreaking, and lovely. But goddammit, Ozpin, and the world you've created. Back at the house, everyone regroups and we find Oscar. Turns out he didn't run away after all, he was just getting some new clothes. So Crow tries to head upstairs as they're no closer to Atlas, but Jeanne presents his master strategy: steal an airship. He's resorted to the tactics of criminals, because the life of crime is easier than the life of law. He doesn't know how or really any of the details of his plan, but Crow steps in to tell him that the idea is terrible in more ways than just one. But then RWBY steps in to deliver a rant/speech. She wants to hear Jeanne out. They don't need adults. They've made it this far by doing their own thing. They know what they're doing and they can handle whatever comes their way. Old man. Now, I've given some thought to this speech, and after thinking about it for a little while, I came to realize that RWBY, right here, right now, in this moment, in this speech, is completely delusional. What is she talking about? Alright, first, it was inevitable that she was going to explode on Crow. We saw the buildup in episode 6 and last episode, and finally she exploded here. It was going to happen, but the words that came out of her mouth were wrong. It would have been one thing had the speech just been about hearing Jeanne out and what he has to say. But she went on this whole tangent about doing it their way and not needing adults, which just isn't true at all. Team RWBY has not had what could be considered a single successful mission without the presence of an adult. Let's start from Volume 2, where Team RWBY were actually a team. First was their White Fang Roman Torchwick investigation. So they split up, Sun and Blake go to a rally where Roman is there. They're both spotted, Roman gives chase, but Team RWBY destroys the Paladin. Success, right? Absolutely not. All of these civilians crashing and getting injured, part of the highway was destroyed, and no one was apprehended. Damage was done with nothing to show for it. Then there was Dance Dance infiltration. RWBY spots Cinder and goes to investigate and fights her. Does she get her name? Does she know what she's doing or why she's doing it? No. Then they went on a field trip. Things go south and RWBY once again encounters Torchwick, and there's the train sequence. Problem here is that Oobleck was there giving commands, keeping everything flowing and making sure that Team RWBY remained calm. And even if you discount what Oobleck did, bombs still went off all around town and Team RWBY was incapable of handling the situation. The Atlas military, the exact people RWBY is ready to go against, came in and cleaned up their mess. Yes, Roman was arrested, but not without the aid of Oobleck and Atlas. So, there's nothing in Volume 2. I don't even know if you want me to mention Volume 3. I'm sure everyone would prefer that weren't on their resumes. And then there was Volume 4. Volume 4 has my favorite moment for this scenario.
And we didn't need an adult to come save us or tell us what to do. We didn't need an adult to come save us or tell us what to do.
Crow was following them the entire time. It's why they hardly encountered any Grimm, because Crow was killing them. This volume, when the apathy was about to kill them, they followed the guidance of Maria.
And we didn't need an adult to come save us or tell us what to do.
Run! Now!
Think about the people who love you. Focus on the thought of them.
The only person here who I can say has legitimately had a successful mission is Blake. She thwarted Adam's plan at Haven, people were arrested, and people were saved. Granted, she wasn't the one preaching that kids rule and adults drool, but the words that RWBY spoke didn't hold any weight behind it. It wasn't the point, shouldn't have been the point, but for whatever reason, ended up being the point. It doesn't diminish what I've said about RWBY actually gaining development this volume, because she has. But those moments were a lot more subtle and it felt natural. This scene felt like them screaming at you, "Look, RWBY has developed just in case you missed what we've been doing." It felt so in your face and forced, and in the end it was just 100% wrong. Crow, on the other hand, I will say, has continued to have perfect direction. His character is always exactly where he needs to be. He's not making weird decisions or changing his lifestyle in a split second. Crow should be the most affected out of everyone. For the kids, they've known and followed Ozpin for a year, maybe 2. Crow was their age when he first met Ozpin, and ever since he's followed him and assisted him. He's dedicated his life to him. And now, the vast majority of his life has all been for nothing. There should be this huge gap of outlook between him and RWBY, which there is. But even in his completely depressed state, he's still acting like more of an adult than RWBY. He may not want to steal an Atlas ship, but he recognizes doing so holds severe punishment and could literally ruin the lives of these children if they get caught. He may not care for his well-being, but he's still looking out for these kids, which is why he tells them that they should just forget the whole thing. He believes that they'll live much more happy and fulfilling lives if they do. They won't end up like him by dedicating their lives to Ozpin. Crow is an adult acting like an adult, whereas RWBY feels like a child playing adult. Being grown up is more than just doing what you want to do because I'm mature. It's about making sure that everyone you care about is safe and not risking their lives on a stupid, unnecessary mission. In the end, the episode had a lot of good moments, but I don't know if they were mixed well. The Mercury and Emerald scene was really good, but it didn't mesh with the rest of the episode. It feels like it should have been placed somewhere else, probably alongside Cinder and Neo's scenes. While good, I don't know if it was the right place for it to be. The pyrrha stuff, as stated, was all kinds of heartwarming. The scene did a really amazing job, and the last bit really fell on its face. You could see what it was trying to do, and the season has been leading up to it, but in the end it just missed the mark completely, spouting lies and random nonsense to give off this feeling that RWBY's growing. But the season has been actually doing a much better job with her development when it's more subtle. Her motivational speeches often feel out of place and not natural to conversation. Of the 3 moments this episode, 2 were really good, but I don't know if they belonged side by side as they were. Nevertheless, they were that way, and both moments were extreme highs for both heroes and villains. So this episode definitely left its mark on everyone.